In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. And I would like to welcome you to our first of a series of workshops presented by the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center. And this workshop is entitled The God-Centered Foundation of Curriculum. And so today we're going to spend a little time talking about what is a God-centered curriculum, and we're going to specifically talk about what is a God-centered curriculum based upon what the Savior brought, Master Fard Muhammad, in the Supreme Wisdom Lessons. So let's go ahead and get started. And the workshop is presented by yours truly, Sister Deborah L. Muhammad. And I just want to, as we begin the workshop, we're going to go into introductions of the participants. But what I would like to do is that I would like to kind of just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Sister Deborah L. Muhammad. I live in the state of Mississippi, and I have been working in the field of education for almost 25 years now. And I started off working in education in an Islamic institution. And then a group of believers and myself, we got together and we opened an MUI in 2003. So I served as the president of the board of the MUI, and I also served as the student director of the MUI for 6 years. And so I have a lot of experience as it relates to that. Also, I have gone to school in education, specifically in physics education, secondary education, as well as have worked on the national scene with the Ministry of Education for the Nation of Islam, facilitated several workshops, both at our Savior's Day workshops, the Ministry of Education workshops in particular, as well as I have worked with the Ministry of Education or the National Education workshops that were sponsored by the Nation of Islam and our Muhammad University of Islam schools. So I have a track record of teaching, but not only teaching, also transposing the Supreme Wisdom lessons into fascinating unit and lesson plans. So that's enough about me today. And we're going to do some introductions. We're going to hear words of guidance from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on a God-centered education, as well as we want to introduce the introduction of thematic integrated lesson plans based upon the Supreme Wisdom, look at a lesson plan model, guided practice, and then we'll talk about what's next. So what we would like for everyone to do is to type in the chat your name, your city and state, the type of school, affiliation that you are with. Either you're with the Muhammad University of Islam or a Muhammad University of Islam affiliate, private school, public school, homeschool, etc. Your title, if you're a teacher or if you're an administrator or others, what grade do you teach and what subject do you teach? On the line today, we have on the Zoom today, we have one of the persons who also works with the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center, Sister Gail Muhammad, and she is also one of the instructors and the administrators at the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center. And in future workshops, you will be seeing and hearing from her. So she also is a teacher at an affiliate school that we have, Nation of Islam Affiliate School, Jackson New World Academy. And in addition to that, we will be joined by another one of our staff members, Sister Gabrielle Muhammad, who also, she taught in a public school, physics, chemistry, and what else? Physics, chemistry, and physical science. And she also is a staff member and teacher at the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center and a graduate of Muhammad University of Islam. So let's go ahead and get started where we should, and that is at the beginning. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says that proper education starts with the knowledge of God. And all of us, should agree upon that. And his words say, true and proper education starts with the knowledge of God. And yet, God is taken out of the schools. It is ridiculous, he says, that the school day does not begin with prayer. God is the author of all knowledge. So why should he be taken out of school? Recognition of God is the proper beginning point for understanding every discipline. If we cannot honor God, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, the supreme teacher, then how can the children honor their teachers? And that's a very real issue today, because we know that the school system has failed. It's not failing, it has failed. So the question is, what are your thoughts? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says that true and proper education starts with the knowledge of God, and that the recognition of God is the proper beginning point for the understanding of every discipline. Now, if we believe that Master Fard Muhammad is God, then should not our education begin with what God gave us in the lessons? What are your reflections about this concept about education? What are your reflections about that? Do we think that we should start with what Master Fard Muhammad gave us in the lessons? And so if you would, please write your comments in the chat below, and we want to see what you think. Do we even think that we can build a rigorous curriculum based upon what Master Fard Muhammad brought? Well, let's hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and see what he has to say about that issue. I want us to look at curriculum. I think I need to stop right quick and add the sound. So let me enable the sound right quick. Take me just a second. And let's go ahead and do that again. We'll back up just slightly. And let's go.
Get up and do something for yourself. So, dear sisters and brothers, in this great educational conference.
My apologies. I think that is skipped to the end. Let me go ahead and
forget about.
No, it didn't. Just give me just a second. Let me back up just a second, because that's where we wanted to start. Okay.
So, dear sisters and brothers, in this great educational conference, I want us to look at curriculum and forget about the school system of this world. Just act as though, act as though it doesn't exist for us. And with a creative mind, now think. Under the guidance of the great Mahdi and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, just think on what they taught us. and look at what we have, and then look at what we can do if we just pooled our resources educationally and financially to do something for ourselves and our children. This is what Muhammad Mosque must do. We have to set the example. And this is why in your signing the Form 4, I asked us to recommit our lives to righteous conduct. Because without righteousness, the life force is strangled. When we make up our minds that we're going to do that which is right, we go to sleep at night and our minds are not troubled because of some evil that we sent forth during the day.
Okay. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan states here that he wanted us. Now, this is meeting the educational challenge. The first conference was the educational challenge, a new paradigm for the 21st century. But this one in August of 2011, he's saying meeting the educational challenge. So he's giving us guidance, telling us to really act like this educational system does not exist. Now, he is at this point the head teacher in this class. He is our teacher, and he's giving us instructions on how to go about looking at curriculum. He said, act like the curriculum of this world doesn't exist. Then use your creative mind to be able to create curriculum. So now what we're going to do, we're going to look at how we can use our creative mind to begin to develop curricula based upon what the Savior has brought. Now, one may ask, the student enrollment, the supreme wisdom, isn't that for registered Muslims only? Yes, the book is for the registered members only. The lessons are for the registered members only. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has asked us to take these lessons and be able to make them such that they are universal, where they can be given to anyone. And that requires that we must be able to teach them in a universal way. So we start with what everybody starts with, which is the student enrollment. And it says here that the student enrollment rules of Islam is the entry point for the curriculum. So if we want to know where to start, this is where we start. The student enrollment is 10 questions and 10 answers, and is given to every person who is considering becoming a registered member of the Nation of Islam. So the student enrollment is for everyone who is considering becoming a member of the Nation of Islam. You have to recite this in order to become a registered member. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said of the student enrollment, he said, we teach the universe. You have a lesson that is given to you in Islam called and titled student enrollment. You must know the answers to these questions before you ever will be permitted into the hereafter, he says. These are 10 questions. They are the 10. Why are they the 10? He says, because we had 10 questions in the universe. The universe is the Big 10, he says. This is our lesson, the universe. So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is telling us, contained within the student enrollment, the rules of Islam, is the knowledge and wisdom that is contained within the very universe itself. He's given us a seed if we really cultivate that seed, then we can discover the universe within and we can study the universe without. Here, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says in the Educational Challenge, this is the last Educational Challenge lecture that he gave to the educators at the for the National Education Conference of the Nation of Islam, and it's titled Education and Land, the Blueprint to a New World. And he says that we're invited to enroll. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad invites us to enroll, and he starts us off with the student enrollment. Now, we may be teachers, he says, unfortunately, if we think that and arrogate to ourselves that we know, then we have short-circuited our quest because we are students. No matter what degrees you have, that's fine. But we are students now under God in his Muhammad University of Islam. And then he goes on to say, and he starts with a question, referring to Master Farad Muhammad. Who is the original man? The minister says in his lecture, he says, Brother Abdul, I think it was you who taught a few weeks ago on the return. And then he says it was Nuri. The return of the original man. He hasn't come yet because we are the original man that must return. Return to what? The original position that we once held in the universe. So, who is going to return us to that state? And what is the process by which we are returned to that state? It starts with the student enrollment. And if we are not advancing that, referring to the student enrollment, the minister says, as a beginning step in the Muhammad University of his Islam. Now, isn't that strange? His Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, and he's referring to Master Farad Muhammad. So our curriculum that we are presenting today is from Allah God. So who is the original man? See, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us an answer. So simple. The original man is the Asiatic black man, he said, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. We used to say father of civilization, but we struck that. And the God of the universe. Well, those are very small words with big, big, big meanings. But as students of language, our duty is to parse the words and then know how to give it to the baby. So that's our charge. We are to parse the words and then figure out how to give it to our students. So what we're here to talk about today is what is a God-centered curriculum? In short, a God-centered curriculum is a thematic curriculum that centers around the knowledge of God. It's thematic and it centers around the knowledge of God. So here, for our example, we start off with question number 1 of the student enrollment. Who is the original man? And of course, we have the answer here that we just recited. And this first question and answer would be, in this case of creating a lesson plan, our central theme around which we will create the lesson plan. So this question is in the middle of our lesson plan diagram that you should have printed and have had for our brief workshop. So we're presenting a Supreme Wisdom curriculum based on and rooted in the Supreme Wisdom lessons that were given to the students of Master Farad Muhammad. So we have 9 courses of study, And with, of course, the first one is theological studies, which is the first of all studies. But these 9 courses of study will all be centered around a theme that comes from the Supreme Wisdom Lessons. Now, of course, let me stop here and say that in creating these thematic and integrated unit or lesson plans, that it may be a situation where you only teach one subject. And if you only teach one subject, as opposed to having a self-contained class like in elementary school, normally one teacher would teach all of the subjects in elementary school. Then what has to happen in this case, if you only teach one subject, that in our weekly lesson planning or our monthly lesson planning, or however we determine how we will do our planning, we would come up with a unit plan, and that unit plan will go across all the subjects. And in this case, what we're proposing is that question and answer number 1 from the student enrollment, who is the original man, will be the central theme for all of the topics. So the teachers will get together and create a unit plan based upon that central theme of who is the original man. So in this case, or in the case of someone who, a teacher that has a self-contained class, what we would do is that we would create one vocabulary list. And so you would have a vocabulary list that would cover terms from your theological studies, your mathematical theology, which would be considered, your mathematics, mathematic language arts and sciences, which would be your language and language arts. You would have your sacred science, and so on and so forth. So each teacher would pull vocabulary words from their discipline, and it would all go on a master vocabulary list. Or if you have a self-contained class, you would do the same thing. So that way you don't have the same words in different subjects. And so then you would begin to build your lesson based upon the theme that is in the center of the diagram, which is who is the original man. And so we have an example here, a template where we would use this as a graphic organizer to develop our lesson. So I want you all, we're going to take a few minutes. I want you to write in the center circle, who is the original man? And depending on the subject that you teach, you would begin to start asking a question or looking for a topic that you would like or that you will be covering within this lesson. So I'm going to go back to the slide before. So if you are teaching theological studies and you have within the center of this graphic organizer, who is the original man, so you would begin to say, okay, well, what am I going to teach for this unit? Say, for instance, in theological studies, you would teach, say, for instance, in the message to the Black man, who is God? So that would be what you're going to teach for that subject. With mathematical theology, we may teach something in the sacred geometry that deals with Allah created himself from an atom of life, right? And we're taught that atom was spherical or circular. And so we may want to teach about, how, depending on what age range we have, about circles, teaching the formula to calculate the circumference of a circle, the circumference of a sphere, or the area that's contained therein. And so what we would do is that we would begin to use, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, our creative mind. And then with our mathematic language art, we can parse the words that are within the questions and the answers. and so on and so forth. We can do recitation. Within sacred science, we can study the atom, begin to start to understand how the atoms, develop into molecules, and then molecules into organs, and then organ systems, and so on and so forth, building up the original man. And then you can look at the rest of the topics and use your creative mind to begin to think about this creating a curriculum based upon what God brought, a God-centered curriculum based upon the Supreme Wisdom lessons, specifically the student enrollment. So you want to start where you always start, where you want to finish. And so in this case, starting where you want to finish, what you would do is that you would already know where you want to go in mind. So if the question is, who is the original man that we put in the center of our graphic organizer, then what we would do is that we know that where we want to finish is the answer. The original man is the Asiatic black man. That is where we want to finish. So we want to be able to get the students from the question to the answer. And so in this graphic organizer, depending on what subject you're teaching, and you want to say the student will know. What will the student know? The student in that question and answer, who is the original man, you may want the student to know. It could be something like that Master Fard Muhammad is a lion person. You may want the student to know that they are God. So in introducing the lesson, it's always good to start off with a question. Okay, well, we are just about finished with our presentation for today. And so with that being said, whenever you are presenting something that is coming from literally from a different perspective outside of the scope of the curriculum of this world, you need teacher materials to support that. So your classroom should be reflective of the unit or the lesson that you're teaching. And I like to give the example of one time I was teaching online at a school in Baltimore called the School of Original Thought. And we used the central theme of who is the original man. And literally, we taught on who is the original man for a year and a half and could have continued. We did not have to stop, at a year and a half, because who is the original man really is the root question and answer of the student enrollment. So the knowledge of self is the knowledge of God, and the knowledge of God is the knowledge of self. So in saying that, what we want to do as we're creating our unit and our lesson plans, we want our classroom and our environment to be reflective of what we're teaching. So at the Supreme Wisdom Educational Store, we're developing a very specific teacher materials that support teaching a new curriculum. Because one of the challenges that we have in teaching from a new educational paradigm is that it's never been done before. So trying to figure out how to bring all these elements together is a challenge. And so that's one of the things that we are striving to do, is to work on solving some of the challenge that comes with creating a brand new curriculum based upon something that is a seed. And we want to create a community at the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center where educators who are working within our educational system can come together and share with one another, lesson plans, ideas, begin to build on, what they're doing in their schools, have conversations. And so this is kind of what we're striving to do at the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center, is to literally build a community where people can come and exchange ideas. Depending on we're inviting everyone to join. We have a free membership that you can join where you get, information about things that are coming out, that we're, different products that we have available. We have a basic membership where you get a newsletter. We're sharing different ideas and articles from people who contribute to our newsletter. And then we have one for a teacher subscription where you get access to the community. And so where you also get access to a space where teachers can share their lesson plans based upon this, using this new curriculum paradigm. And then, of course, once you get the institutional subscription, we have research in there where you can go into our research papers where people have written papers based upon the Supreme Wisdom curriculum and other aspects of, education in the Nation of Islam. I mean, people have done PhDs on their dissertation based upon, the Nation of Islam and the early days of Master Fard Muhammad and his education to Black people in Detroit, Chicago, and of course, in Cincinnati, the three mosques that were established during the time that Master Fard Muhammad was among us. And also you get access to archival information that is specifically curated, that deals with education in the Nation of Islam, starting in the 1930s, all the way up until today. So you have that archive, as well as we have a blog. And we hope that you got an opportunity to be able to look at our blog and begin to start parsing it, thinking about it, using it as a starting point. It dealt with the English lesson, a starting point to really consider, this mathematical language, arts and sciences, and how, language is used to enslave and how language is used to free. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and look at also what we have. We have a course that is going to be offered, a self-guided course that comes along with a book, a manual, a user guide that is over 200 pages, and it's called How to Create Thematic and Integrated Unit and Lesson Plans Using the Supreme Wisdom Lessons. It's a self-guided course, and it's coming soon. It will be published and on the website before the end of November. And lastly, we have another workshop coming up on November 25th. And this workshop is thematic and integrated curriculum design. And we would love to have you come join us. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you all for your time. And we hope that you would come join us, visit us either on the web at the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center.org, or you can also go over to the swecstore.com. That's SWEC store.com, and look at some of the products that we have to offer and some of those that we have that are going to be coming out soon. So with that, I'd like to thank you for coming and joining us for this time, and may Allah bless you all as I greet you as I came before you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this time.